All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on RISmedia's webinar on future-proofing your brokerage, strategies for long-term success, long-term growth, and stability. You know, our industry is in constant change, and we have some experts on this webinar here today that are going to help you really navigate what is going on in the industry and how to future-proof your brokerage. We'd like to start with introducing the panel real quick. I want to introduce Colette Stevenson. She is the president and CEO of Resides. We also have Deborah Beagle, who's the CEO, managing partner, and owner of Remax Advantage. And we have Robbie Bunting, who is the partner, broker in charge of Hilton Head Properties, Realty and Rentals, and quite a expert panel today to talk about future-proofing your brokerage for long-term success. Before we really dig into the topic and the panel, kind of want to thank our sponsor today, Colette Stevenson and Resides. And Colette, could you tell us a little bit about Resides and how it applies to future-proofing your brokerage before we really dig in?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So happy to sponsor this. It's always great having the panel and being involved with whatever RISmedia is doing because they just do such a great job. But yeah, Resides is a borderless MLS. It's privately held and allows for equity ownership and investment. The company was has been in existence for 49 years. We've always been an independent MLS, unaffiliated with any association, but of course always support the industry as a whole and the positives of what the association does. And we look forward to being able to become even more influential in educating brokers on how to create a strategy around their MLS.
Love that. Well, let's go ahead and let's thank you, by the way, again, for sponsoring this webinar. You know, in a shifting market, building a brokerage that can weather changes and thrive long-term requires more than just short-term wins. It demands a future-focused approach. In this webinar, we're going to explore how leading brokers are planning for long-term success by reinforcing their foundation, adapting to market trends, and building resilient business models. So I'd like to dig in real quick and just ask the first question of how are each of you planning for long-term success? How are you reinforcing your foundation, adapting to market trends, weathering change, and building resilient business models? So I think we'll throw it to you, Robbie, first and say, you know, how are you doing those things to future-proof your brokerage?
It really is a changing market, Todd. And, you know, one of the things that we are strong about is, diversifying ourselves in this market to become more valuable. And, agents throughout the country have different markets, of course, but we've diversified ourselves with co-ownership and, property management as well as property rentals, so that we add more value to the client. And that's been a shift where, they can one-stop shop with us, come into our office and a lot of companies go vertically with diversification. We kind of went horizontally, but there's, it adds value to the client and it keeps the client coming back.
Love that. Deborah, how are you reinforcing your foundation and future-proofing your brokerage?
Well, and just so everyone's aware, we're in the Nashville, Tennessee market area, and we're sitting at about 4 to 4.5 months of inventory. So educating our agent base too on shifting markets and finding solutions, especially seller solutions and buyer solutions. So we brought in a lot of different options, homeward cash offer. We created an auction division as a solution for our sellers. And we've got more seller financing. We've got a lot of different tools and resources there We also created Advantage Advance. These are prepping the homes for sale and providing access to credit based off of seller equity. So we are providing tools for our agents to find solutions for the clients that we serve. And we're not taking our foot off the gas. I mean, we're doubling down on education. We're integrating AI. We're doing a lot of things to lead into the future. And then the other big one is we provide opportunities at the brokerage level through lead generation that we do at the brokerage level for our agents. So they know that we have stability in any market if they come to us. So.
Love that. So, you know, we all know that technology is a big component of adapting and changing in this industry. And I think when we were prepping for this webinar, we were talking about how years ago, we didn't even have the MLS. We had the printed books that, you know, were used to, you know, help customers find homes. And technology just is continually adapting, and it's adapting quickly, even just in the last year. And that's a huge portion of future-proofing your brokerage. So Colette, can you tell us a little bit about you and how you're using technology to adapt and change?
Yeah, sure. So I think as we go forward, every brokerage and every broker is going to have to realize that not all MLSs are created equal. You really need to look at their mission, their vision, and where they intend on going. Are they reinvesting, you know, in themselves? But also, when we invest in ourselves, are we still maintaining the freedom and flexibility that a brokerage needs in order to do their business in the way they see fit, and also just staying in our lane, right? Know what our core competencies are with what we do and create the best advantage for our company, but also for our client. And we've just recently invested in kind of a state-of-the-art listing entry system, which is going live this week. And it was a long time creating this. It was a lot of effort and energy to do, but we've, you know, taken the monies that we have, reinvesting in what is a strength for us. It's one of our core reasons to exist, right, is to create the environment where we can share these listings and people can get the most information in the shortest amount of time and be able to disseminate that in the way they see fit. And not only that, we are a repository for all of these listings, right? So what are we doing to give back in a way to these brokerages so that they receive benefits by being able to deposit their listings with us and possibly become an equity owner in what we do, and then having the ability to grow in a different way within their own business, within their own structure. And so educating them on a strategy with us, which I think most have not heard of before.
Right. Well, and one of the big things that speaks to me about what you're doing is every brokerage right now is looking for ways to diversify and ways to add revenue streams. And, you know, can you talk a little bit about how you help with that?
Yes, so being an equity owner, and we created a product called Data Meter. So we meter data. Of course, you know, all these brokers have data. It's very difficult when data is in a silo to really monetize it in a reasonable way. And so we came up with a kind of a fair method of being able to monetize the data according to how much is used. So bringing in the more data we have, the more data that we can meter for a broker, then it enables them to hopefully reap the benefits when our board distributes dividends, right? So that's one of the ways that we are helping them diversify. But also, I think you have to look at every MLS that you are involved with now, or maybe going to be moving into an area. Are you going to need all of these MLSs? How are you going to choose which ones you need to stay a part of? And then leading in that and being confident in that so that your agents are also confident in your decision making as well.
Right. Well, and you know, Robbie, your brokerage is such a dominant leading brokerage in your area. You are a true leader and so well known there in the Hilton Head area. You know, how do you continue to future-proof your brokerage and stay in that leading role in your area over the years?
Yeah, there's a few things here. With Colette, she's helping us elevate the experience for our clients, which is, very important. And, through technology, moving the information faster is important to them. And embracing technology, I think, is one of the key components to what we're doing. But, and if you can't do it, hire a millennial. They'll help you. I hired a gal a couple years ago, and she gets things faster done than I could in a week. So, of course, embrace the technology, but don't forget the human connection. I mean, I think it's important that AI is going to change what we're doing right now. It's on the wall. I mean, they can respond with 24 hours a day to our clients on new properties that are being listed, but we've got to remain to continue adding the human connection to what these technologies are going to bring to the table. That's one of the things that we do. We also have an evolving business plan. I mean, I sat down with it yesterday, and the business plan is dynamic. It's always changing, and it's there to be proactive and help our clients, with kind of not taking the guess out of it. But I look at my business plan that I wrote 20 years ago, and it's been modified maybe half a dozen times through the years that we've had it, and it's always best for the client. It's putting our clients first, and how can we, what should we be doing differently? The rental company, that's a totally out of the box thing. I'd never thought as a realtor I'd have a rental company, and they're up at midnight helping people fix things. I'm not up at midnight helping people fix things, but the rental company it generates clients back to us as well. I mean, a client that has been with our rental program for a long time just sold his property with us. Oh, I'm sorry about that. And my phone always rings. Sorry about that.
There you go. It's all
so we're
right.
good.
Yeah. So Deborah, you have, I think one of the things that we also talked about, in preparing for this webinar is, we all know of brokerages that were dominant leaders in their area. And then maybe as the years go by, they fall away from that, and other companies maybe, surpass or take some market share from them. And, but then there are those other companies that have a strong history and they have a great foundation. And what they do is they reinforce that foundation. They adapt, to the market trends. You've got a great history and a great foundation there in the Nashville area. Can you talk about how you've stayed the same but changed, as you've needed, but not changed the things that would also cause you to stop being you?
Yeah, well, over the last 15 to 20 years, in all the different markets that we've faced, the couple things that we lean into, again, as Robbie mentioned, embracing technology, we kind of are we're leaders in that space, I feel. We also have a very strong brand recognition in our market as providing the highest level of a customer experience. I think that is what the consumer wants now. And with all of the technology coming in that brokerages and agents are seeing, I think they've got to, be grounded in the fundamentals and the knowledge, which again, last year we went through a lot of changes in the industry. So if you weren't staying current and up to date and getting educated, no matter how long you've been in this business, you're falling behind. So really, again, with our brokerage, a strong pillar is education, the highest level of customer service and experience, and that ties not just to us, but our partners that are part of the whole transaction process. As long as we're doing that at the best and highest level and providing that service for the consumer, I think, and then leaning into the technology, embracing, our agents now all of our agents have House Whisper, which is a virtual assistant that's connected into their CRM. We're going on listing appointments. We're mentioning, hey, our assistant's going to be recording our walkthrough so I don't have to take notes. And then at the end, it gives you a full list of your action items and a summary of the whole meeting that you had, regardless if it's in person or via Zoom or one of these. So, we're embracing the new AI and the technology into our existing business of, again, providing the highest level and being able to find solutions for whatever comes up. Because we all know it's Murphy's Law with real estate. It's going to happen. So we have to, and that's the one thing, again, another thing that we as agents have that the AI doesn't right now, it's the emotional component and being able to address our clients' needs that way. So again, if you're grounded in the foundational elements of our business and that human connectivity, and then you are staying up to date with your education and integration of the technologies, I think your brokerage is going to survive. You're going to have closings. We also don't take our foot off the gas when markets start to shift and change and there's uncertainty. I mean, we double down. If we can pick up market share in some lead generation areas, we're grabbing that, because we know if we're following our processes and procedures and we're doing what we say we're doing, it's going to turn and it's going to pick up. So, and sharing that message with our agents, I think that's important as owners. The agents are having a feeling of uncertainty. And if we say, we've got you, we're solid, we've gone through every market, we will get through this. That helps your troops keep on going. So, but it is something that I feel we have to be in front of the agents and keep reinforcing that with them.
Right. So, I hear you talking about embracing shifts, about, that the highest level of service and just being committed as a brokerage to all of that and personalization that AI, can't provide. Can you talk about metrics and tracking and, some of those things that I know that also then help you make decisions for your brokerage?
And as broker owners, I think that's one thing, some of us enter into broker ownership as an agent, so we're still in production. And a lot of us just take our commission and put it towards the business. I think, really setting up, like Robbie mentioned, a business plan and moving forward at the brokerage level, knowing your numbers, knowing, and we look at it every Friday. I have a leadership meeting every Friday. We report every department, how many contracts came in. We forecast, we look at commission that's coming in, how much is company retained. We know the numbers, the minimum numbers we have to hit every month to stay profitable. So knowing your key performance indicators for your business is super important. And there's easy ways to do that. I encourage even broker owners to start with a spreadsheet if you can't, if you don't have anything, and then hopefully they're using QuickBooks for their management. But there are smaller broker owners that are just, they're not looking at their numbers. And I think that's super, super important to, and processes and procedures, everything that they do, that they're checking that it's getting done at the level that they're expecting, which is part of operational excellence. I mean, you gotta say what you do, write it down, inspect it, and improve it. So,
Right.
And to build on what Deborah's saying, the numbers also have to be, coming from the agents. I mean, an agent that has a goal in mind, I mean, you can put numbers to that goal and actually help the agent, reach that goal with the right tracking and the right numbers. And, I always recommend a new agent to get a coach or somebody to help him. I've had coaches for 30 years that have helped me along the way, tracking my numbers and helping the agents track theirs. But a new agent, we had one agent that reached 30 under 30 using a coach and tracking the numbers. So, I mean, we really push hard to have the agents also work on their numbers to add to what we're doing.
Right.
And I'll reiterate that, Todd, too. I think we have, I see this a lot with broker owners that have been in existence longer, they're not recruiting. I think, recruiting is key to thriving in our industry. And like Robbie said, we have a mentor program. We provide the mentor from the brokerage side to an agent that joins. And like Robbie, I have a 28-year-old, I have a 28-year-old and a 26-year-old who have achieved 60 transactions, closed 60 transactions, and received their CRS designation, their certified residential specialist designation. So they're wanting opportunities. And if you have, as an owner, processes and procedures of helping a new agent, get started and be surrounded by top producers that are encouraging and giving back to the next generation up and utilizing that. I see a lot of older agents too that don't realize that their business is a business. It's a job. They don't realize that their database, their client base, is a business they could sell or pass on to another agent, partner with another agent as they age or reach retirement. So as an owner, helping those agents find pathways for their current businesses is huge, and being open to bringing in new agents. I hear it a lot. A lot of broker owners don't even want a new agent. Come to me after you have some transactions under your belt. I've heard it. So, but again, I think you have to have a path for anyone to have an opportunity to succeed in this business.
Yeah. And for our listening audience, action items or takeaways really is the number one, you have to have a written plan and then adapt that plan over the years as your company grows, but also as the market changes. And so I know for us as a company, what we do, we meet every year annually, and we do set, we used to set 5-year goals. We don't even set 5-year goals anymore. We set 3 years because so much changes. And even every time we get back to review it, even that, some of that changes a little bit, but we start with 3-year, we do 1-year goals, and then we meet quarterly and we check how we're doing along the way, but we also check what changed and what needs to change, because then you start having opportunities that emerge. So one of the questions I want to ask all of you is, when these opportunities emerge, then you have to change your plan, and then you have to kind of adapt and change your business. But that's what future-proofs your brokerage and keeps you leading in your area. So how are each of you identifying growth opportunities, and even how are you taking those growth opportunities versus risk and managing risk? So how are you identifying growth opportunities? Colette, you want to start?
Yeah, so basically we look at our customer, right? And we look to see where are they going, what are they doing, where they're expanding, where they're coming in from, and what each one of those marketplaces requires. Maybe some differences in those marketplaces. How do we become a kind of the leader now when they come from another area? How do we surpass what their expectations from the area that they came from? We want to always be the bright light. When people come and join Resides, we're a borderless MLS. And so when they come and join us, they are immediately shocked because our business model is different. So it's an education process for them, but that takes a while for them to understand. But in the beginning, the goal is to start them out on the right foot, and keep them going along the path, so that as each touch point with our client becomes an education, becomes a confidence building relationship for them. We have an account manager who is their advocate. When they join us, they have a one-to-one relationship with an account manager that is there for them whenever they need them. And I know I'll probably repeat a lot of what Jack Welch has said, because early on I became a huge fan of his, right? And he one of the things he was saying, that you have to manage the short term while developing the long term, right? And in technology, we're consistently, there is not a month or a couple of times a month that we aren't being faced with something that's new and different that we have to evaluate, right? And it's difficult while we have our own corporate strategy of what we're trying to accomplish. We're also having to manage what's coming at us, which I think brokerages have to do as well. And I think the main thing is knowing the risks involved in what you're doing is very important. Like you mentioned, Todd, managing risk is important, but being nimble. And a lot of MLSs, become, I think, probably the bad guy in a lot of instances, because historically MLSs have always been aligned with a large technology company that has their own mission and their own vision and their own values, which do not coincide with an MLS or a brokerage. They just don't. And so when you need to be nimble, or you need to make a change, or the brokerages need something different, the pockets from the large vendors are waiting for the stock market to embellish what they've already invested, and so it's difficult. They don't want to make these changes, and so the MLSs, especially ours, are having to look again at what technologies we are responsible for, staying in our lane, developing those systems that allow for the brokerage to have the most flexibility. And that's where what we're really focused on at this time.
So, Ravi, how are you identifying growth opportunities and working that into your business plan?
Yeah, so through our team, that's where we find our success. So, basically we have a meeting every week that, works on, it's called IDS from EOS Systems, but IDS is basically identifying, discussing, and solving the problem. But it's not just me identifying the opportunities or the growth, that it's the team that's helping us discover those. And if we get the right people in the right seats, the culture continues to grow. And sometimes we don't always have the right person in the right seat, but I think we've found that now, and it seems to be working really well.
And I'll piggyback that on Robbie's too. We are very, we have a diverse workforce, but we're very selective when it comes to the type of agent that we're looking for. We have kind of an avatar. We know we're very grounded in innovation and ability to shift and pivot. We beta test a lot of new technology. So agents that join our brokerage have the expectation set, because of our strategic plan is to be highly engaged in the industry and educated and providing the highest level of service. So with that, these things that we say we want our agents to participate, again, highly innovative, solution oriented, utilizing all the resources around them, setting others up for success, following our procedures and policies. And we have 100% productive workforce, and we're almost at 200 agents. So when you create a culture and build a platform for opportunity for agents, we are very clear up front of what we're looking for in agents to join our brokerage. And that, I think, has helped lead to our success over any market and adapting to any market, because they just know they come to us. We're always open to new technologies and processes and systems, and we set others up for success. And we give with the heart. So we're very collaborative. Agents that have been with us 10, 12 years, 15 years, they give back to others within the organization as well. So it's who we are, and it's our culture that we've created.
Right. Well, I think the underlying message here is, number one, never stop learning. And number two, never stop asking for information and for feedback. Some brokerages, I think, are afraid maybe of asking for feedback, or they're afraid of asking their audience even of what is it that you need? What is it that you want? And I know for us as an organization, we are constantly asking for that information from our own customers, our internal customers, and we're also asking, what is it that you need for your customers? So, each one of our agents that we serve also has a consumer that they're serving, and then we are constantly assessing. Then, okay, is that an opportunity? How does that fit into, into our organization, and how do we execute that, or implement that within the organization. And I've heard each of you tell me that that's what you do in your organizations as well. So commend all of you for not being afraid to ask, for that information and for that feedback, right? So
and sometimes you just have to take the plunge. I mean, there is risk with growth, and sometimes you just have to take I don't know if it's a plunge, but a calculated risk on what you're doing.
Right.
And don't ever be afraid to ask for questions, for help, exceptions, consideration. It's all part of your relationship with your client. We're highly customized. Our MLS is highly customized, but it's gotten that way because over the years, we've had very good relationships with our brokerages, and they come to us with their issues and say, look, here's a problem that's going on. We think there's ways we can solve it. Can we work together to try to figure this out? And so, because technology can be limiting sometimes, it maybe doesn't happen overnight, but as time has gone on, it's much easier to do it today than it has been in the past. So I think just maintaining open conversation all the time and not to have no fear, right? About what you're entering into. Just ask a lot of questions. I guarantee you'll come up with some really good answers.
Yeah, and Robbie, I've heard you say before, that your company asks, how can we do better? What partners can we add here and there to add value, or what co-marketing projects? Can you talk about that a little bit and how you do that in your business?
Yeah, well, we have a great group of vendors, and we try to call those vendors and kind of make sure that they're doing the work that we need. But we continue to add to our vendors list as we grow. I don't know if that's answering your question, but our vendors are really important for our growth, and if we can help them grow, we're going to grow.
Right.
Yeah, and Todd, so we have a very strong co-marketing plan in place, and we have strategic partners. They come to our company meetings. We have a directory with all of them, and they actually partner with us in advertising and lead generation opportunities, and then we utilize them. So HVAC, plumbing, electric, movers. We did a JV with Title, which was huge for us. We're capturing about 72% of our closings. Now, Tennessee is a split close state. It's a title state. It's not an attorney state, so we can help that with our clients. So we did do a JV for Title. Our lender partner, insurance partner. So setting up and going above and beyond that is, our general contractors that we utilize. They advertise with us, and again, we've vetted them. There are high level reviews for them, and it's providing the whole customer experience, not just during the transaction, but post-close transaction as well. So again, it's setting up our agents for success and providing the best experience for the consumer.
Right. Well, what other topics would you like to talk about on future proofing your brokerage, or anything that I haven't asked a question about? What additional elements? I know that training, I've heard all of you mention that training is a huge element for all of you of future proofing your brokerage, and how you implement those training programs within your organizations. Deborah, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, and as I mentioned, I'm the first vice president for the Residential Real Estate Council. I will be president of the association in 2027. So we set the stage. We have over 32 now that have their CRS designation. And again, that's tied to productivity and education. And then last year, we made the decision, Gary Ashton, my business partner, and I made the decision last June. NAR offered the ABR designation free. So we had all of our agents 100% by December 31st had to complete their ABR designation. So there's an expectation of continued education and at the highest level. So we do set that expectation with agents that are with us. No matter how long you've been in the business, you never stop learning. So that's very key to who we are. And I truly believe that that has helped us weather any market. So having the best trained workforce that you can have is critical. So.
Very much so. I mean, even at the MLS level, everyone starts out with the Council of Multiple Listing Services, which I actually sit on the board with CMLS currently. But there's a program for all of the staff that they can start. Our staff all goes through the CMLX 1 certification. We have some who are already CMLX 2 certified. And not only do we require that continuing education of our staff, we also require not just this from CMLS, but we also require other, trainings that give them technology training. So, we just went through a Microsoft training for the planner part of Microsoft. We help them build their own resume so that they become strong technology oriented individuals, that even when they leave us, things that they can take with them, right, and advance their careers. Of course, we always want them to want to stay with us, right? But lifestyles change, people decide they want to do something different, but giving them the ability to expand their horizons and kind of get outside of just what we do every day, I think helps them a lot. And learning customer service skills, even if they're not the ones in front of the customer all the time. These are all very important things to keep in mind when you're obviously bringing the new people on board. And Robbie and Deborah do it really well. I think most companies do. A lot of smaller brokerages, though, sometimes don't have those advantages. But I think there's always a resource you can go to help you with that. Reaching out, like I said, once again, we at an MLS, we help on all kinds of things. It's just the people call us for any and everything. And so we have a lot of varied answers in our knowledge base, right, of what we can help with. But I think, making sure, obviously, that continuing education is part of what you're doing. It just builds confidence. And going to an MLS, seeing, learning some of what they have. Statistics are big in an MLS. And so educating yourself on the statistics you can actually get from an MLS. And if you're not getting the ones that you want because there isn't a system that is allowing you to, talk to your MLS about an unusual statistic. I've brought this up before in other webinars. We work a lot with niche markets that will need unusual statistics that you can't just get out of the box, statistics program. So we do help with a lot of that, and are really looking to do much more of that as time goes on.
Robbie?
Yeah, I love working with new agents. I mean, just sitting down with them and helping them learn the business. And as an individual broker, I mean, I think that's time well spent. Certainly when we can monitor their phone calls or their interactions, it's good. I mean, they always are looking for constructive feedbacks, the ones that want to grow, and they don't mind hearing a different way of doing things. I mean, when I first started, we called it the bullpen, but we would all leave our doors open because we'd hear each other talk, and it would evolve a better way of working together and learning how to sell real estate or talk about real estate or present real estate. And the bullpen was my kind of learning lesson for real estate sales. But within our office, what we do is we sit down and we kind of go through a 30-minute, no more type meeting where we go through and we talk about different ideas and events that we can learn from and grow from it together individually, and it helps a lot. But with new agents, I especially like working with them individually, one-on-one.
And one key thing I always like to mention to people is that once a year, you need to get out of your own industry for a day at least. Once a year, at least every year, I go and do something with a different organization that's having either an event, some speakers, whatever. And you may think, what would I ever learn from going to one of these events. It is amazing what you can take from a completely unrelated industry and bring in just a little bit of a different nuance or just a little bit of a different idea to what you're doing that can give you just a little bit more of an edge.
I love that you said that. That's actually something that our company believes in heavily, and we will even bring in executives from other industries because they just bring such a new perspective. And in one of the areas that we did that happened to be training and education. And we brought someone in from the training and education field who completely took our training and education to a different level. One of the things that we had to adapt to, and I'm sure all of you experienced this as well, was agents wanting to consume it more on their time, their education, their training, and have everything available online. And so moving that inside our dashboard where there's not only a complete step-by-step orientation, but we built an activity plan of our staff. It goes along with it step by step. So when a new agent joins the company, they're getting a call the day of, they're getting a call 3 days later, check-ins along the way on specific topics and specific items. And it's just been phenomenal. And that came, Colette, from someone from the education industry, not necessarily from real estate, who adapted what their knowledge was to our real estate industry and took it to a whole new level. So Deborah, I see you shaking your head. Yeah.
And I want to jump in because I think this is interesting as far as how we're consuming knowledge right now. You know, so many of us are using ChatGPT. I'm always asking it questions all day, you know, throughout the day. And one company that we brought in and partnered with in September, October last year that we're already starting to see huge improvements with our agents is called Shiloh, and it is a AI-based, kind of like a 24/7 online coach that's integrated with our CRM. And the agents then have access to their dashboard and all of their communications. And Shiloh is as soon as they finish a call, Shiloh will give it feedback like, hey, you did these things really great. Next call, you might want to mention these. We have keywords built into Shiloh, so it's also helping them, you know, did you mention this? Did you mention this? It's creating action items for them. So it's coaching consumption at the agents in their time frame, and they can, you know, we actually had a group originally that started using it to beta test like how would they incorporate that into their daily workflow. You know, would they do it right after each call? Would they do call review in the morning and use it as coaching? Most of them do it the morning before they get started. They review the day prior and look at their calls and their communications there and the feedback that the system is giving to them. So you know, I think you know, again, the way the agents are consuming education in smaller types, it's just offering different opportunities for coaching and growth. Kind of like, and also liked what Colette was saying, experience I did too. I went to a business seminar that wasn't real estate related, and I walked away with so much, so many different little nuggets to take back into our business here. So.
Right.
Deborah, I love that. I mean, I wrote it down. I mean, you know, doing things like this future-proof your business. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, us sitting here talking, Shiloh sounds like an awesome feedback responder that we should be using.
Yeah, and Robbie, the other cool thing about it is because the agents have a dashboard, and if they are in your CRM, you know, to help as an owner or a manager too, you have dashboard capabilities that will show you commonalities of hurdles that the agents are experiencing with their calls. They also have built-in role play, like you do the call and the AI will actually, you could replay the call again and try to see if you can get a different outcome with a role play. Even though it was the real person on it the first time, you could do that. But as an owner, I've looked at like stuff that multiple agents are experiencing across the board, and then we use those as what we talk about at company meetings. So you know, I loved it. I was so impressed with it, and now seeing how the agents are using it and the ones that are using it, how their business is improving, is huge. So.
Cool.
I love hearing that you're doing that because, you know, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about metrics and KPIs and just data in general, or even feedback. You're sitting there with oversight and insight into some data that is giving you insight into what hurdles are they facing, or what roadblocks, or what topics should we be discussing that lead you to insights into what topics you should be discussing with your agents, or what training you should be doing, et cetera. So that sounds very, very powerful. A great way to
And as a
future-proof.
brokerage level, if you offer it to your agents, you know, the agents that choose to participate can participate, others that are doing their own thing. But again, these are all things that as owners that we can provide to help our agents grow.
Right. Well, and segmentation as well, you know, because our agent bodies all make up different groups. We do have, you know, we have those newer agents, but we have also those the very high-end expert, you know, top agents, and then you have, you know, other agents as well. And I think it's important when we talk to our agents and when we train to our agents to future-proof is make sure all of them are having their needs met at their different levels and speak to them differently and speak to them where they are. And that's another big one. Yeah.
Well, you look at how many agents have been licensed just in the last 6 years. So, and how many different types of markets. So you could have an agent that's been licensed, you know, 6 years ago, and they were used to a multiple offer market and haven't really had to experience how to communicate with a seller when a listing's sitting. So, again, agents that have been in the business a while might still need, you know, you still need and want to improve. So having those opportunities that the brokerage provides is important.
Right.
That's a good point, Deborah. You know, talking about agents who had been licensed, you know, in the past 5 years or so, they aren't, you know, their expectation levels have been different. What they've concentrated on as far as what they needed to know and how they needed to do their business has been much different as the market has changed and it's become slower and longer time frames and more showings and more open houses and all these things. And one of the things that we are stressing now is that because before you were practically selling a house before it was even, you know, hardly on the market, right? And so now we're getting back to basics in there's safety, there's risk, there's liability, there's all of these things when houses are unoccupied, the owners have moved, the you know, there's short-term rentals in there, there's a long-term renter in there. And now getting back to some of those basics, having to re-educate, right now we're looking into some more education to kind of go back to what the expectation was, that people just knew these things. You know, why do you need to have a lockbox on a house? Why do you not leave you know, the lockbox open? You know, you shouldn't be sharing a lockbox code with, you know, all of your, you know, vendors or every agent in the office necessarily. You know, you should be using your showing system to schedule your appointments, and people should know when you're entering homes and how long you're in there. These are all things that are, you know, becoming more prevalent again. You know, people showing up at homes and, you know, wanting to open a lockbox without a showing is a very risky situation to be in. And so when you are future proofing your business, getting back to that, I think understanding the tools that you use every day, the risks and the responsibilities that every brokerage has to not only protect their clients' property, but also those people entering a property. So I think that all of that is part of the education that we're all trying to provide now, which is, you know, just the list gets longer and longer, it seems like every month.
So, you know, we've covered a lot of ground here, and in a minute, I'm going to ask each of you to give the audience a final thought, a pearl of wisdom, a key takeaway from today. But I want to recap a couple of the things, though, that we've talked about and we've heard here, you know, that embrace technology, embrace shifts in the market, and have a plan. adapt to that, to the changes in the market, and adapt your plan and check in on your plan periodically. Emphasize or invest in training and stay up with what you need to, provide your agents with training and continual value in that manner. And then let's see, personalization. Agents can provide personalization that AI can't provide. So all of those things, your brokerages are doing some amazing things. But want to thank our sponsor real quick before the Pearl of Wisdom, again, Colette Stevenson. And Colette, one of the things diversification for brokerages, and that every brokerage, keyword for me that I heard you say was monetize data, and there's an opportunity really there with you. But can you give us a recap real quick, and thank you for sponsoring this webinar here today.
Sure. I just encourage brokers to ask a lot more questions, right, of their MLS. Understand the vision of the MLS, understand the strategy that an MLS can be a part of in your culture. Don't be afraid to ask for things from the MLS, right? But controlling your own destiny, or somebody else will, right? So if you know where you're going, the plan can change every year, but is your MLS helping you implement what you need to do? Are they providing other added value by being, monetizing data, or strategizing and bringing you tools that you haven't been able to get from your MLS before? Most big brokerages don't need a lot of tools. They have a lot of tools on their own, but without the data, the tool is nothing, right? So it's imperative that the data be all that it can be. Looking for unique data sets that maybe haven't been captured before. We do a lot of that in our marketplace, so that the brokers can, increase their awareness of what's going on. So I think the main thing is just, lead, manage the risk, and control where you're going, and don't let the MLS be a hurdle for you. Let it complement what you're doing.
But also, I want to clarify one thing. If I understand correctly, every brokerage listening, no matter where they are in the country, has an opportunity to monetize their data.
Correct, with us.
All they need to do is scan that QR code that's up on the screen, and you'll get them some additional information.
Correct.
And connect with them. So every brokerage has the ability to diversify and monetize some data with Reside. So thank you.
That's true.
Yeah. Robbie, how about you? Your pearl of wisdom and key takeaway.
From all this, I'm kind of walking away with, just be more proactive, not reactive. I mean, move before the trend starts, or move when the trend's moving, but don't wait till it's after. I think you just need to really be proactive in your business in order to future-proof it.
And Deborah.
Yeah, well, I like the quote from Zig Ziglar, if you build up the people in your agents, they'll build the business. So again, I think as the markets shift and everything changes and AI gets incorporated, again, if we focus in and piggybacking on what others have said, is focusing on the people and the highest level of service, and they will help build the business and keep you going through it.
That's great. Colette, anything else?
I just want to thank you. This has been terrific. I've learned quite a bit myself being on here today. So thanks so much, Todd, for hosting. You've been wonderful. Thank you, Deborah and Robbie, for sharing your 1 hour today.
Thanks, Robbie. Thanks, Todd.
Yes, thank you all. A video replay of the webinar will be available shortly. Keep an eye on your email for a link. We do want to thank RISMedia for putting this amazing webinar on. And as a plug, my favorite conference of the year, CEO Exchange. Any of you brokers that are listening, I highly recommend, because it is packed with information like out of this webinar. But Colette, Robbie, Deborah, thank all of you for just helping us today talk about today's topic about future-proofing your brokerage and weathering change and thriving long term. You guys have been amazing, and I've learned a lot from all of you, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
September at RIS Media CEO Connect.
See you all there.
Bye.
Bye.